shout them out, but like I don't know. So are we recording right now? Okay. So all right. So this is the 4th episode of the Only Coaches podcast. We have Coach Bartsch here, and we're going to talk to him about what got him into coaching, and a bunch of topics. So that's what we have today. So we're here with a football coach, and we are going to get into it. Do you want to start with your All right.
So our first question would be, so where are you from, your upbringing, kind of what made you get into coaching?
So my dad's a Marine, and I'm the youngest of 3. So I was kind of like, I moved around a little bit, but I ended up 2nd grade settling in San Diego, California. My dad played a little bit of college football. Both of my brothers went to college to play football. Neither one of them were able to kind of carry that through at the end. But so football was always kind of one of those mandatory things. My mom basically made me play football. And for a few years, I hated it. But ultimately, that's something that me and my brothers bonded over for sure. My middle brother, he passed away my sophomore year in high school. And he went to Western New Mexico University and had just been told that he was going to be the starting running back for the next game. Well, he passed away before he could do that. And that, if I didn't have football helped me get back into a regular routine of life, if that makes sense. He passed on a Sunday. I went to football practice that next Monday, and then started going back to school that week. But basically, I knew during that process, I knew that whole time that, hey, I have the end of the day, I'm going to go to football practice and forget about all this stuff for at least 2.5 hours. And the coaches and the teachers helped me through that process, because that was the only, being at home. The main reason I went to football practice that day wasn't to go to practice, but because I wanted to get out of the house. It's just everybody's depressed. Don't know how to handle ourselves. But I knew if I went to football practice, I could get my mind off of it. And that is when I knew that I wanted to be a teacher and wanted to coach. Was the way those people helped me through that. Dad is a Marine. Dad, he was the type of guy. He's just turned 80. He full-time Marine and had a full-time decorating business on the side. So he would work night shifts for the Marines, and then the daytime he would be installing blinds and curtains and that type of stuff. So really kind of grinding for us. My parents were separated. My mom on one side of the country, my dad on the other. So we always had football to bond with. The last thing I ever did with my brother, like besides talk to him before he went to school, was I threw him pass routes. Like we went out to the park and he was running, back out of the backfield type stuff, and I was throwing him the ball. So that's a good last memory, and football is responsible for that, I believe.
Ooh, dang, that was a good answer. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So basically, what got you into coaching was it helped you get through a hard time. And how long have you been coaching? Like how long from the start? Like how many years?
So I started coaching when I was in high school. Didn't make the baseball team my junior year. I played freshman and sophomore year baseball, and then my junior year didn't make the team. But my senior year, there was a coach in town, Coach Lundquist, who if you grew up in that town, you played for him at one point. Basketball, baseball, football, something you played for him. So he wasn't our head baseball coach, but I think he was either the JV team or the freshman coach. Anyway, I helped him coach his little baseball team. I didn't really coach. I threw BP and was like the first base coach. And then our senior year, me and another buddy of mine, we helped him coach his Pop Warner team, 8th graders. So we were on the defensive side. Coach Lundquist was on the offensive side. And then go to college. And even in college, I think me and my roommate, we had 2 Little League teams. Pretty cool group. Nice. And so we just I think I've kind of always known that that's something I wanted to do, and started really young.
So you started coaching from an early age, but when did you start coaching high school football?
So there was a transition. I played 4 years of college football at California Lutheran University, and I thought that I wanted to be a college coach. Oddly enough, 2 of my teammates ended up being very successful college coaches. Tom Herman ended up at Texas, and Dave Aranda is still at Baylor. So 2 teammates our coaching staff, our head coach ended up going off to they won a Grey Cup in the Canadian League. So I thought I wanted to coach college ball. I was even calling recruits and thought maybe I'd stay on, be a GA or be a GA somewhere in our conference. But I racked up so much credit card debt that I had to start working. So ended up lucking out and going back home to Carlsbad High School, and I started at a middle school long-term sub position, and I was studying to get my California teaching credential, and ended up coaching the outside linebacker at Carlsbad High School my first year. I had one kid, and his dad was one of my teachers at one point. So it's kind of a very small town situation, but we ran like a Tampa 2 under front defense, and when that kid was at a 9 technique, I coached him. So I coached one kid, but I didn't even have him like off the ball. I didn't coach him. The linebackers coached him, but I coached him when he was on the ball. And then so that was the year 2000.
Wow, nice. So my second question is, what is your philosophy on like offense when you go to like install your offense, or just your theory or your philosophy on what you think for an offense?
So my background, I played defense in college. I played a lot of special teams. Was not very offensive oriented coming out of high school. At Carlsbad, we played a team, Fallbrook High School, coached by Randy Blankenship, who's one of the best coaches in the state of California, bar none. And they're wing T. And we had a team. We went to California's divided into sections at the time. So we went to essentially the state championship game against Fallbrook High School at Qualcomm Stadium. There's like 20,000 people. It was a big deal when we're the highest classification in that area. And we had already played them once that season. And so, like I said, wing T, but he does some things like they're quick out of the huddle, but they play super fast, and they're on you. They're not spinning as fast as a huddle team could be by still huddling, and then on the ball, break the huddle on the ball, snap the ball in like 2.5-3 seconds. It's unbelievable. And we had our defense had 11 scholarship athletes on that side. We had guys going D1. We had a couple guys playing the league, and we got smoked in the finals. We got absolutely like 55-10. We got absolutely smoked.
So y'all were a wing T?
So no, so
Or they were
we
a wing
weren't.
T?
We were kind of like we were kind of pro style. There was some wing T. I wasn't coaching the offense on that side, but when it came time for me to actually get a teaching job, I was like, I want to go coach for that guy because I want to see what that's all about. So I started with a wing T base, and was wing T through and through. Never getting in shotgun. Always gonna have our hand on the ground. Always gonna have a tight end, and just like that old school. When I was still running wing T, we played a team, and we ran the ball for like 550 yards and only threw 2 passes. And I regret throwing those 2 passes. We should have just run the ball. That was my mentality. Fast forward a few years, and I was a failing defensive coordinator, and coach wanted to break things up. This is probably about 10, 15 years ago, so about halfway through my career. And he put me on the offensive side of the ball and took somebody from the offensive side of the ball, made him the defensive coordinator. And next thing you know, I'm coaching offensive line. And as a guy who played cornerback in college, all I knew was wing T, but here we are, we're shotgun spread. Like we're almost Tony Franklin air raid, everything with the wristbands. So all of that to say, everywhere I've been, we've never had, except for Carlsbad, we've never had players that are just better than you. So I've always felt like you've got to have some type of gimmick to level the playing field. Wing T has misdirection. You're playing fast. And then when we went to spread and we went heavy RPO, I feel like that's the same thing. You're putting the defense in conflict. The RPO stuff I like better because, any one of 3 guys can get the ball in a given play, where in the wing, any one of 3 guys looks like they have the ball, right? That to me, there's a difference there. So all that to say, I don't really subscribe to like one, we're gonna be wing T, we're gonna be spread. I'm really open to all of it. I just feel like you've got to have some type of gimmick, some type of trick, some type of something goofy to level the playing field.
So if you had to pick, like, hey, you're the head coach, you make all the decisions. You've got the athletes that you want. Which are you picking? Like, are you wing T? Are you spread? Or are you something else?
Probably do what we did at my last school is we're spread, extra wide receiver splits. At the high school level, it's hard to have a tight end. We were talking earlier. I was going to ask you, if you guys have a true tight end, because you have only a certain amount of resources as a coach, right? So if you're truly spread, like there was a point in my career where we didn't have a running backs coach, and as the offensive line coach, when we were in inside period or if it was run game related, I actually coached the running back. We had a guy put him through drills, but he didn't have his own coach. So, you have a certain limited amount of resources. If you can get an offensive line coach, a receivers coach, and a quarterbacks coach, but you can make that. That's what, 3?
Yeah.
You can make that work. But when you start going to, I guess maybe you could go wing T and the O-line coach takes care of that tight end. Now the O-line coach is coaching 6 guys,
Right.
And that's a lot to look at.
Yeah.
But I think, if I were to go, I would go right back to what we were doing with the super wide splits. We were running read routes. The amount of guys that we had running wide open in the deep secondary was obscene. Like, it's fantastic. And if you got a kid who can throw that ball,
Right.
and we were using the entire 53 and the third width of the field. Like, we weren't playing in a box. When I was calling the wing, we beat a team, but they essentially had 10 guys in the box.
Right.
And we were just 4 yards in a cloud of dust, and that's fine. But
Right.
When you have the small rosters like we did, we're a 2A school, and I just feel like you can get kids hurt, get kids beat up. Where if you're spread and you're running zone and your RPO and you're getting the ball out, you're putting more stress on the defense. They have to run sideline to sideline. All we're doing is throwing a single ball out there.
And it's
You said you did like the super wide like splits. Where did you who inspired you to run that? Where did you get that from?
So I didn't do that. I hired my last stop. I was a head coach, and I hired a guy that I had known for years to come in and run the offense. And he had been a defensive guy, but he can coach anything. He's as smart as they come. So he brought that in, and he was showing it to me on the board. I'm like, it's like RPO, but with routes. So you're not stuck in. We're just gonna run slants. We're gonna run outs. We're gonna run comebacks. You're not stuck in that. The kids they have options, and then we have built-in. So the way he did it was he would basically say, all right, the right side is running this route concept, and if we don't tag the left side, then you guys have your gift or your screen. And so there was always multiple places we could go with the ball.
nice.
I'm sorry. Did you feel like those splits made it easier on the quarterback to see what was going on?
Yes, it forces, that edge player who's in conflict, he called him a cover down. When you pull those guys out wide, you're outside the numbers and you're between the numbers and the hash marks, which he called the Nash. That's where our slot and our wideout was. They gotta declare. And we had some automatics. If he wasn't flexed out wide enough, we were going to hit the screen. And that was on the kids. The kids did that on the field. We didn't have to shout anything out there. And the kids got to the point, a bunch of those kids played basketball. So they already had good rapport with each other, good ball skills.
Right.
The only challenge is do you have a quarterback who can throw from the left hash mark all the way to the right sideline?
Right.
I mean, that ball is going to get caught on the numbers.
So you saying put the defense in? Sorry. You put it made the defense show their hand. They couldn't really hide what they were doing.
100%.
Yeah, I love that. Okay.
100%.
Yeah, like Tennessee did that when they had Hendon Hooker, right? Or when they beat Alabama. Yeah. So Tennessee beat Alabama. You want to say it?
Okay.
Man, it had been like, 15, 20 years. I mean, we had to let them win one, I guess, but it's all right. I mean, still most national titles, but.
Well, it's very quarterback friendly. Like Joey Aguilar shows up.
Yeah.
It's very quarterback friendly. What's that?
Plug in and play.
Yeah. If you have any type of just athletic backyard, like any type of sense as some football players don't have any sense. Some kids I think if you're a basketball player, this is perfect for you because you're on especially if you're playing pickup ball, you're on the floor, you kind of know what your buddy's going to do before he does it, and that type of thing. And here's the other thing too, as a former offensive line coach, the fewer guys you have in the box, the easier it is for me to block. And we don't have to block them all if we're going RPO. Right. And so that's where if I'm going to be staunch about anything, it's probably not committing to having an attached tight end. Maybe having that sprinkled in a little bit, just enough.
Right.
But, you start bringing guys in the box, and now they're changing techniques and stuff, and it just makes it so hard on the offensive line.
And nowadays, too, you kind of mentioned it before, not having a tight end, because like Logan actually started kind of like you were talking about coaching one kid, because we already had an offensive line coach, and then sometimes we use a tight end. well, there was one kid that could do it,
Yeah.
but he didn't have a coach. And then we were just like, well, why don't you do it? And it was kind of a joke, but not really, because this kid, when he put his hand on the ground, he had no idea about the run concepts.
Right.
It's like, when you've ever, because I played tight end in high school, you're kind of doing like routes one day with the receiver coach. He hates your guts because you're slower than all the rest of them. And then you'd go down with the O-line coach. So you're splitting days. But then like Logan coached our kid that played tight end. He's always looking back like, hey, what am I supposed to do? But like, it's the same thing, but he's always like the guy that's missing out some days. But they're not really that good at blocking with their hand on the ground because they're really a receiver.
Right.
That's what they're, an X or a Z, and you're making them be a tight end. And like, there's not a true, like, it's kind of like a fullback. Like, the position has almost died, and we need to see a resurgence of it, I guess. But I mean, I like it, and being one, like it makes sense to bring them back. But the mentality of a kid is spreading them out wide is what they want to do.
Yeah.
Putting their hand on the ground and blocking a defensive end or slamming down on a D tackle, that is not what they want to do. Not in today's football, but I think. But
I played one game of tight end in high school, and it was the most tired I had ever been. I had never been that gassed. And what we did a few years ago, we play called around the tight end. So all I needed my tight end to do was to know which plays to block down on and which plays to reach. We never worked any combo blocks with him because that's you only have a limited amount of time. He's got to go do ball drills, and so we made sure that whenever we played teams, I had a run game call sheet, and if we weren't going to call a run that forced him in the tackle to have to combo block. And then the other thing about that is now the tackles rules are changed, so it's not just the tight end. Now we're attached. Now do I climb? And now that's some that's off the table now that you have a guy next to you. So we probably spent about 30% on offense with an attached tight end. I'll go back. I bet you we never threw the ball at the tight end, but we also never really ran at him either. We're just trying to kind of give the defense a different look.
Right, and make them have to do something where you know what their tendency is when you have a tight end. You know where people will be lined up.
Yeah,
that gives you an advantage on offense. But
we would shift sometimes.
Yeah.
One time we shifted. So we were trips right. The tight end was split. This kid ended up playing at Navy. He was by far our best, like overall best football player. And so we got in the formation, and then coach decided to change the formation. All he did was attach the tight end. They had a shade. They have a shade and a 5. Well, the 5 kicked out to a 9, so they had a shade and a 9 on our sideline.
What was it? Was it a tray look, or was the tight end just away from the?
So it was trips open. So we had trips to the right, and the tight end was by himself to the left. And when he shifted down, the whole defense didn't react. Just that one kid knew, I got to go play. And we had we did that a bunch in that game. Just kept it on our sideline, so their coaches couldn't communicate, and we just ran it right down their throat.
And then they have to like burn a timeout or do something because they've got to make an adjustment. So can we talk about all of your roles? Because you've had over 2 decades of coaching. What all have you done? Because you mentioned being an O-line coach, you've been a defensive coordinator. Like what all positions can you list off of your head? Like, hey, I've done all this different stuff because I know you've been a head coach. So like, can you just rattle off?
So started as the outside linebackers coach, and then the next year, and then for the JV level that year, I was the defensive coordinator, coached all the linebackers. So kind of baby stepped. We had 2 different staffs, and then next year I was promoted to linebackers coach, and then I coached the running backs and wing T. Went to another school and coached defensive line. We were like a slant 50, so a little bit different, but still defensive line, running backs, and come back. I was a JV head coach my first year as a teacher, my third year teaching. So I was the offensive and defensive coordinator at that level. Go to middle. Somehow I got back on defensive line, come out here and get a job at a wing T school where it was a different style of wing T than we ran in California. It's like the Herschel Moore, Wes Elrod wing T, fun stuff. Was the defensive coordinator at that school for the freshman team. And I think the only thing I did for the varsity team was signal the offense. And then that school was a little bit far from home. So I got a job closer to home as the as the freshman head coach, and that was at Oakland High School, and that was the best group of kids I've ever coached. So as the freshman head coach,
You mean best talent wise, or just
just
like
the best.
to be
I think when
around?
I die, I'll have more kids from that team at my funeral than probably any other team. Like it was, they told these kids are rough. They don't take discipline, and I don't think I've ever connected with a group of kids better than the group of kids that I was told I wasn't going to be able to connect with,
Right.
if that makes sense. So I was the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator there, but I had two really good young assistants. So one of the young assistants was helping me on the defensive side of the ball. And as he you could kind of tell, like we're at meetings and watching film, he was getting more and more astute. So the more he kind of rose up, the more I backed up. So by the end of that season, he was calling the defense. I wasn't doing any of it. He was doing it all himself. He actually even pointed something out on offense, and I switched something up, and we ran a trap right up the middle. That kid never got touched because that coach had spoken up. Anyway, so, and I forget what position. I think I coached the running backs there because one of the young coaches was the offensive line coach, and then the guy that helped on defense, I think he coached the receiver, the single receiver. And then I got an opportunity to be a head coach at a small school, and took one of those guys with me, and he was the offensive line coach, but he ghosted us for like 4 or 5 weeks. And so I ended up having to coach the entire offense myself, and didn't have anything really to do with the defense. So at that point, I was kind of the receivers coach, kind of the offensive line coach, but as the head coach and offensive coordinator, I had my hands in all of it. That left that job, went to a place for about 10 years. And when I got there, I coached defensive backs, and we were running a lot of palms and defensive backs. And at that place, I started doing a lot more non on the field stuff. So I started running the weight room. I had done a little bit of that before, but I started running the weight room, I think maybe my second year there. Took over the special teams, and we kind of went back. And so at some point I coached all the special teams, but sometimes we would hand parts of it off to younger coaches who were, give those guys a little bit more responsibility. Oh man. Do we stop?
Oh,
How did that happen? Have you seen where they're given so the iPads on the sideline? They're setting them up on tripods now. Like you see it, it's pretty smart. Instead of leaving it on the bench, you just.
Oh, yeah, it is smart. What just happened? Is it
came unconnected from this. Oh.
is it clamped to your phone?
All right, we're good again.
So, man, where were we before the world fell? So you're talking about special teams,
Yeah.
and
Giving the younger ones,
giving the younger ones roles, and then.
So I started doing a lot of non on the field stuff.
Right, yeah.
A lot of fundraising, doing laundry. I think one of my roles officially assigned was the equipment room. So I got pink eye a couple times that year before I realized you got to wash your hands before you get in the car. And then social media. So around that time, social media started to be a thing.
Right.
And so we started doing a lot of videos and, pushing that stuff out and being active on Twitter and Facebook. We used to do vines. That's how I used to coach my offensive line. Sometimes I would make a little vine and send it to them like, hey, this is good technique right here. Took over technology like cameras and that kind of stuff. Honestly and truly, I've done just about everything you can think of in a football program. And here recently, the last couple of years, I've taken care of the field. In California, they don't let you touch the field because of the union rules. But I've been some places with turf, but I've really started enjoying taking care of the field. It's really, I don't know what it is. It's really gratifying. I don't know. It's green.
It's like Forrest Gump, it's just mow grass all day. It's a dream.
It is.
Be rich and mow grass. But what do you mean the union rules? Like working overtime?
So in California everything's union. So the custodian's union contracted job is to take care of the grass.
Oh, okay.
And what I've learned from that is coaches take care of the grass better than custodians.
Right.
Because they're on it's their pride and joy.
Yeah.
And I think it's like the football field is the football program and the football field are the front door to the school. More people are going to see that than they're ever going to see the library or the theater. So I think when that looks good, it makes the whole school look good.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
For sure.
This was at first going to be a funny question, but it could be. The question was, is if you could only call one play the whole game, what would it be? Obviously, you're not going to call the same play over and over and over, but what would be your, I guess, your favorite play if you had to pick one? First one that comes to mind, like, that's my favorite play.
Man, I guess just inside zone. And I think we kind of blocked it like duo, but we always paired it with some type of RPO on the backside, and we could get in. You've got your pre-snap gift routes. I can pull it, I can take it, and then I have other options off of that.
Right.
That's probably, and what's interesting about that is we used to have two different. When I was coaching the offensive line, we had two different drop back pass protections. Quick set, a longer set. And when I started like really looking at in the off season, we weren't getting any. We ditched the deep set, and then I started looking at our pass protection, and the rules are almost exactly the same as inside zone. So our quick game, you just had to know, is this run or pass, right or left, and it just made coaching the offense. So 80% of what we did was really related or married up to zone. So I would start there, and not being an offensive lineman, my rules were a little bit different for the kids. Like you wouldn't hear covered. You'd never hear a kid say covered, uncovered. You would never hear a kid say that. It's just, where's my primary gap? Am I a helper or not? And that's pretty much how we did it. And that's, and I told the kids basically, inside zone, we're attacking them. When it's 60s protection, we're letting them come to us. Other than that, we're blocking the same guys.
Right. But for you doing O-line, because when you said it, because I'm an O-line guy too, you said you guys did inside zone but blocked it like duo. But you still see duo as like a separate blocking scheme as inside zone, or do you?
Man, people duo for whatever reason is like a very touchy subject.
Yeah. That's all I brought it up. Yeah.
I mean, like we have a guy that I know at my last school. He'll fight over it, and like for me, I kind of had to make the rules because I didn't play offensive line,
right?
So I was basically looking at pictures, and I think we blocked it like duo. I'm not quite sure. We're trying to get as many double teams as we could because we had smaller guys.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I was asking, because some people will say, I looked at inside zone as duo blocking too. Like that's just how you block it. Like I never looked at duo like a thing. Like I just looked at double teams. Everything is inside zone, and then lately I've seen where like duo can be its own thing, then inside zone is like its own thing, but then people block inside zone like duo, and it's kind of like it can get confusing because I'm like, what is it? Like, is duo a whole separate thing or what?
I think it's all the same.
Right. I really do. I do too. That's what I'm saying. That's what I was asking. So.
Well, and here's the other thing about inside zone that I didn't mention. You have all the pre-snap stuff, and that can be anywhere, and you the RPO thing. The cool thing about inside zone is if you have a running back who can just read it, it's 3 plays in itself. Depending on where if you hit the cutback and if he bangs it or whatever. So it's really very flexible.
Did you like when you just said that? So inside zone, do you think is if you have a really athletic running back that kind of can see, like he can see the field? I feel like inside zone it can be easier to teach, but for running backs, like, do you think? Let's say a kid's never played before, right? And he comes out there. Do you think it's easier to teach him like gap scheme rather than like inside zone?
Probably easier to teach him a gap scheme. The problem that you have with some gap schemes is sometimes the kids have to make their own holes. And a kid, like you said, who just came out and has never played before, how is he gonna like that? Is that somebody you're gonna try to keep around?
Right.
There's nothing against that. We've had kids. The place I was at for 10 years, we had a season where, and I'm gonna probably embellish a little bit, but I think we had 4 different tailbacks run for 100 yards in that season. We were just for whatever reason, tailback was a tough spot for us, and we're pulling like the backup quarterback, the slot receiver, and stay just inside zone based, right? But these guys are type of guys that like, hey, we're gonna go play cornhole. Like you want them on your team because they're gonna be good at it, But
can we go back to all of your roles and which one? Because there was probably like 10 different things you did. But what was the most like gratifying or satisfying in your career? Like you were like, oh man, I loved this, because it's not always like being a head coach.
Yeah,
it might be for you, but like which one of those roles was like, oh man, this was the best time of my career?
What I forgot to mention was coaching the kicker. So when I first started coaching, we had picked up a new. Me and this other guy were first year coaches, and he had played at Utah State as a kicker, and did a little bit of time in the NFL, made some money gambling, that kind of stuff. But he and I became golfing buddies. So we were like attached at the hip for a solid year.
When you say made some money on gambling, do you mean like on games he was in?
In the back of the plane.
Oh, okay.
On the NFL, yeah.
Okay, I was like, okay.
Blackjack or whatever on the back of the plane.
Right.
He's got some good stories about that. Little kicker guy comes to the back of the plane with the big NFL lineman. They think he's,
Yeah.
But he and I would play some golf together, and he taught me a lot about kicking. And over the years, whenever I felt like we had, a guy that needs to be developed, I would send him videos. Just, hey, tell me what this kid, and just, so for about 15 years, he was like my remote kicking coach. But then what I started realizing was, I'm sending him fewer and fewer videos because I know the stuff myself.
Right.
And so one of the really good things, if you have the resources, one of the things I did at a couple schools was I would coach one side of the ball, and while that other side of the ball was practicing, I would go off into another field with the kicker. And so I would spend, or the kickers, depending on how lucky we were. But I mean, I'm spending like 30, 45 minutes, just me and a kid, and we're kicking, stretching, talking. You can only do so much, just.
Right.
And what's been really, really cool about that as I've gotten older is those kids will, a couple times in the last 6 months, a couple of those kids have run into my wife out in public. It's like, oh, you're Coach Bartsch's wife. I kicked for him. I love him. And it's been like, that part's been really, really gratifying. But the other part to that too is my biggest background probably football wise is playing special teams. Like my brothers taught me how to long snap when I was very young. So I was always a long snapper. And that really, what did they say? They said, this will keep you on the field.
Oh, yeah.
Being a long snapper will keep you on the field.
Can't take them all. Yeah.
Yep. So I did that all through high school. I'm a little bit too small to be a long snapper in college, even at my little school. So I was the backup long snapper, but then DJ got hurt. And so next thing you know, I'm long snapping, in college, in games where all I had ever done was just practice, on the side. I'll never forget the first time I snapped for an extra point in the middle of the game. It was an absolute dogfight. And you can't see me on film because it looks like there's 10 people out there because I'm so much smaller than the guards. But I snapped the ball, and I kind of I don't block. I was just bracing for impact, and I look up, and the ball's sailing directly through the uprights. That was a good feeling. But all of that to say, our college coaches were so good at special teams. They did a really good job of game planning and putting our special teams in a situation to be threats. Like a punt wasn't ever just going to be a punt. Like that, we always had a trick play. Our kickoff return was it always looked like there was going to be a reverse. Mm-hmm. And I just really glommed onto that because if not for being a special teams player, I played in every game in college because of special teams. I was just a slot corner, third down guy. I only played about 30% of the snaps, but the bulk of those were on punt, kickoff, kick return, that type of stuff. Yeah.
So I remember, because obviously, we've coached together for a short stint, but I do remember you were the special teams coordinator at the time, and years later, I became a special teams coordinator. And I remember, sometimes when that's given to you, it means more, and you want to make it mean more, and you want it to be exciting for the kids that are like, this is my shot to get on the field and possibly get on the field for offense or defense, and it's our time to shine. But it's also what I liked about it was whenever, because I was a little bit creative and did different things, but I remember that you always had tricks, and you always had there's always, if the fans went to the restroom or something and missed a kickoff, they might have missed something big. You know? So I feel like I liked being a little tricky and a little because it's so hard, because you can't just rest and not put your best kids out there.
Right.
Because there might be something. So I liked doing rollout punts. I liked doing special things and moving your whole line, the whole naked pole cap, swing gate, whatever thing on extra points. And I don't know. I only did it for 2 years, but I love special teams. After you become a special teams guy, it becomes so much more important. and I love being creative.
Right.
So I like that. I remember that about you. You're creative on special teams, and also something else. It made me think like we had a 7-on-7, and there was this nice pole cam that someone had, and I remember you made one.
Yeah.
I think before they started coming out, right?
Yeah.
So you had you can talk about how you made it, but it made me think of you because I was like, this guy, like one of the other coaches was like, oh, look what they have. They have like a big pole cam, and this guy was walking around filming us from the back. And then, so just tell us about your base model of like, because it was what, like, had to be 15 years ago or
I
something?
think our trainer Everett Boutwell was at a camp or clinic or something, and he had seen it. He had seen it, and he said took a picture of it and showed it to me. And then so we went to Home Depot and just bought a PVC pipe and took the PVC pipe and the camera to our quarterback's dad, who was a machinist, and he machined a custom mount for this thing. And so we had a manager, and he had to look up. You know, it was eventually we ended up getting like a little screen for him. But he had to look up, and he would go, you would see, at the end of the quarter, you would see him walk, because we always wanted him behind the offense. So quarter would end, the kids would come to the sideline, you could see, from the upstairs camera, you could see Bobby walking down to the other end. But some of my best memories were the creative side of special teams and coming up with big plays, and especially when, you know, we played a team that has a lot more resources than us, very well coached, tons of coaches. Kids don't play both ways. Our kids are all playing both ways. Right. And we were so good against them on kick return that they just kicked the ball out of bounds. Like, they just gave up because we had taken one to the house, and we were that far away from taking another one to the house. And they just kicked the ball out of bounds. We successfully faked a punt against them. So that, to me, was like, all right, you guys are giving up. You're just going to kick the ball out of bounds. I'll take it.
Yeah, that's a win for sure.
Yeah.
So 4th and goal, you're on 5 to win the game. What play are you calling to win the game?
Get
And
the ball.
I'm not giving you really like,
Yeah.
you know, dual threat quarterback, good receiver. Like, I'm
gonna get the ball to my best player.
Well, okay.
You know, we had a tailback a long time ago who went to MTSU, and we called something for our quarterback. Our quarterback's a good kid, but this other kid was special. You know, my last season coaching our best player was probably our quarterback. You know, so maybe put the ball in his hands. You know, he's athletic, he's tall, he's big. You know, we're gonna, you know, inside zone, let him go ahead and keep it. You know, signal it, go ahead and don't hand it off. I mean, we've had receivers that are our best players.
Yeah. So let's talk about best player you have ever coached. Because, I mean, when you've coached for that long, there's a lot of them. But who stands out as the overall best player that you've ever coached, you think?
So, and you brought that up earlier, and I've thought really long and hard on it. And it's hard. I don't want to, it's been so long. And your best players are also the best teammates. Right. And we had a guy come in late named Mike Salisbury. He ended up going to Navy. Just one of the best kids. Yeah. And he came in to play quarterback, but we had already had a really good quarterback. Yeah. And so it took a little bit of convincing. He just became a utility knife. Mm-hmm. Played on all the special teams, played on offense, played on defense. And I had a little bit of a health scare. Turns out I was just hungover. But I had a little bit of a health scare. Went to the hospital, and Mike called me. One of the only players to call me. So that meant a lot to me. Great teammate. And then fast forward to just a few years ago, I was coaching receivers at Smyrna High School. And we were transitioning from, you know, Smyrna had always been like foot to foot. We're going to pound you into the ground. And we had a quarterback who could throw the dang fire out of the ball. So moving the spread. And I had these two receivers that were trading time at slot. And just great kids. One kid kind of caught the ball like that. The other guy had good hands. But I'm like, look, this kid needs to play tailback. So I only coached this kid directly, other than having him on special teams. So we switched him to tailback, and then he got plugged in on the defensive side of the ball at middle linebacker. Arian Carter now he's playing at UT, and he did everything he could to be a good teammate, and that's being assertive with the younger players, being honest with the coaches, taking care of his body. Nobody ate and drank better than Arion did. If Arion had to be in the training room, he was there early and was staying there late to do rehab and that kind of thing. Was willing to do just about anything for the team. Like I said, he was playing slot, then he played tailback, and then he was playing middle linebacker. We had him on special teams. So the best, now he's at Tennessee, but the best player, but also coincidentally the best teammate. And those are hard. Those are hard, I think, things to marry. You know, you have kids who are athletic but they're dumb, or maybe they're smart but they're not athletic. And the other thing that we don't talk enough about is, are they good teammates?
Yeah, so it's interesting to think about what that question is, because it's so like broad and every coach is different. So when we ask you, it's not just like, oh, this guy's raw talent, because you've coached people that are now in the NFL.
Yeah,
right?
we've had some guys.
So it's kind of like, you remember what's the most important to you is, how did they make everyone else feel, or did they bring up everyone athletically along with them, or so I think that's an interesting thing about coaching and what we remember, because that stuff does matter when you think about the best player you ever coached. Like, is it their accolades, is it their talent, is it the what some dude in some boardroom says, like, oh, like this guy is like this here on a board somewhere. But for us, it's probably different, because we're like, what did they do for the team? Like, what did they do to make everyone else better?
Well, and to that point too, and I really I had a kid last year, my last season, named Jake Rogers, and Jake was actually probably our best deep ball catcher, but we were very limited on the offensive line. So here's this kid who looks like he should be playing outside receiver, playing guard, but he was also our kicker, and he was also our best tackler. This kid never came off the field. He was the type of kid who, again, like Arion, I think he brought everybody enjoyed being around him. He wasn't one of those, some kids kind of sourpuss, and Jake and I had some really direct conversations over discipline on the team a couple times. Very, very, for being 17 years old, he had the wisdom of like a 37, 47-year-old. And he's somebody that you would want in a dark alley. He absolutely would fight for you.
Nice. Last question for me, please. What is something that you would, now you've been through coaching for many years, what is something that you would tell your younger self when you first started coaching, that first year when you was coaching high school, or when you were still in high school? Like, what would you tell yourself?
I think so I had a little bit of a life reset. At one point, I left teaching and coaching altogether and went into sales. And something about being in sales where you have to perform every day, and you've got to be you got to be diplomatic to some extent. I think when I came back from that, what I learned is to not take myself so seriously. For some reason, pre-sales, I was a bit of a dickhead, and looking back on it, that's how I feel anyway. And I just took everything so darn seriously. And for whatever reason, that year out, when I was, traveling salesman and having to feed my family based on, how I'm performing, I don't know what it did, but it was a reset. I don't know how it happened. I saw a lot of life, sitting across the table from somebody whose home's falling apart, that they need to sell it. They got to fix this part, they won't be able to sell it and have their grandkids or whatever. But that would be my number one thing, is to go back and don't take yourself so darn seriously.
So, let's talk about the important stuff. Just roll as a dad, and like, you've got kids and they were athletes, and I guess still are athletes. Are you ever not an athlete? But yeah. My point is, when you were watching them grow up, and as a coach, you're looking at their coaches, what kind of things did you expect or want to see from someone that coached the most important people in your life, or two of the most important people of your life?
I wanted their coaches to be demanding, because life is demanding.
Yeah.
And growing up, I don't know if it's, you mentioned it earlier, oh, we're just here to have fun. Like, no, life is demanding, and they have to know that there's more than just the two people that live in this house that are going to be demanding on them, that their teachers should be demanding and their coaches should be demanding. And what we wanted them to take from that is, you do some trauma bonding with your teammates. You're going to have a demanding boss in life. You're going to have a boss that maybe you don't think is fair, or you don't really get along with. But I think sports and as high level as, they played travel sports at a fairly high level, very demanding, very competitive. And I think that's helped set them up for their young adults right now. They're not going to school, but they both pretty quickly got full-time jobs, like grown-up type jobs in a grown-up environment.
I think, like, for me, I would, like, kind of, to add on to what you said, I also want our girls to be coached hard, and so they know, like, well, it's not just at home, the expectations of doing things right, because how you do something, my favorite quote right now, I guess, in coaching is, how you do some things is how you do all things.
Yeah.
So if you don't clean your locker and your slob, are you really going to get to this ball and show effort, or
Right.
I think it's just a good indicator of future success. Like, can you be coached hard? Some kids can't, and they shrink in big moments when you're trying to rely on it. And we see it all the time,
Yeah.
coaching, like, because football's hard, and it is something that reveals someone's, like, character, or obviously it builds character if you can keep them around long enough. But in today's society, it's hard to build a team because it's such a hard sport that they can go and do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a balance of how can we keep kids out, but also demand a lot from them. So I think that's where we're at now. But do you have anything else for Coach Bartsch before we? All right, so I want to ask you some advice for Logan, because Logan got a new promotion, and
We both did.
he is the head coach now of a program. And what do you have as advice for someone that is in their, how many years have you coached now? Like you're pretty new. I mean, like 3-4 years.
We'll say 4 or 5 actually.
4 or 5. We're just making stuff up.
Yeah.
We're just gonna say.
All right, we'll say 5. We'll give them the benefit of
That's
5.
good.
5
We'll
is
say 5.
5 is right. All right.
Yeah.
So he's new. I mean, that's pretty new.
Going into 5th year. Yeah.
5th year coach. His program. He's got to get out of someone else's shadow. But what's your advice for running his program the way he needs to?
You may have a vision of everything that you want to do. Don't try to do it all at once. Good. Don't let great be the enemy of good. Good is okay to get started, especially when you're building something. Just like going back to my special teams experience. I special teams coach at the same place for like 10 years. And I went to another place and I tried to do all the stuff that we were doing there. But there was a 10-year foundation at the one place, and there was a 10-week foundation at the other place. And it was kind of like a little bit like, oh, you think at, what was I, 35 or whatever, you think at that age you would, you have that experience. But again, and they say, you start hard, you can always ratchet it up later. I don't believe that. I think if you're intentional about, all right, we're going to do this first, and then next year we're going to add this little element, next year we're going to add this little element, I think you can. But like what Manny said, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So start, like, discipline-wise, start with something that you can manage. That, like, it was interesting that you said the lockers. At the last school I went to, we had a coach who had a desk in the locker room because the discipline was so bad. And I just couldn't believe it. So we started, I said, okay, well, tell me what you would like to see in the locker room, and I'll enforce that. So he set up a locker, and, shoes here, just like the whole thing. And I said, okay, and we can do that. I'll set the expectation with the kids. Guys, one of these days, and this is like one of the first times I was with them. I said, guys, we're loving each other right now because this is all new and exciting. I said, one of these days I'm going to come out of that field house, I'm going to be pissed because there's going to be a shoe on the ground. I said, just so you know, when that happens, you will be punished. Just so we know, we're all on the same page. So when it was time to do those punishments, I didn't have to yell, I didn't have to scream. The kids know. I was like, guys, I found a gum wrapper, I found this, I found that. And the kids already knew. Like, they would spread out and they would already knew because they knew they were going to do up downs. But, to wind back, start with something you can manage and make that become a habit. And then you can add a little bit, and a little bit to that.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
I think we might have missed this question because we talked about your favorite thing, experience and stuff, and takeaway and gratifying moment with the kicker, and you mentioned that. Was there a least favorite position, that, like, group or coordinator job, or maybe being a head coach or something that you're like, man, this isn't fun for me, and like, why was it not fun?
That's a good question. You know, every now and then you have kids. You got to do what the head coach wants you to do, and every kid's different. You can't coach every kid the same way. You know, but I've had a kid. I coached a kid hard, and basically was kind of like told, hey, you know, we got to take it easy on him. He can't handle it, and all like that. And of course, we couldn't trust that kid on the field. You know, but we tried. You know, we tried the contract and all that stuff, and you get so close to the kids that you think you know, but then the head coach is kind of like not above it all, but he steps back. He kind of sees a bigger picture of it, and he can. And I was frustrated by that. The toughest moment I've ever been in as a coach is we had just scored in a playoff game to go down by 1, and I'm out there as a special teams coach looking at my kickoff team, knowing we're going to run an onside kick, knowing it's not going to be enough time. Even if we do recover, we're not going to have enough time. And that was tough. I don't know, because you look at it, I'm like, I love you guys, knowing that it's not, you know, there's not no good can come of it because the clock's going to wind down. Mm-hmm. That was rough, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of moments in coaching where you're like, it's like seared into your brain, you know, and really with every group has one of those moments where they're like, do you remember this? And it makes you, for a kid probably, grow up pretty fast. But for coaches, it's just like, I know coaches now that have a way better memory than me, and they're like, I remember this year, this group, who was on the field, and the situation, what route, I don't know. But it is crazy what we remember and take away from coaching and the experiences, and that's what, I don't know, makes it fun. And that's probably why we're doing this, I guess, overall, because like the whole, I don't know, thing that we're trying to do is just connect people, connect coaches, and like make people understand, I guess, our brain a little bit. Because like we obviously love the kids and we want to help them, and like we're doing it for those memories. So anyway, we appreciate you. Come on, do you have anything else you want?
Well, so the other day it's funny. So I got out of coaching. I got my last head coaching job, and I kind of knew it was going to be 2 to 3 years. I wanted to get that place pointed in the right direction, leave it better than I found it, have it be an attractive job. But you know, it didn't work out financially for us. We were really starting to struggle at home. So I had the opportunity to leave and go to a school, get a plum teaching position, but instead of coaching, cut the grass, you know, fertilize it, paint when I can, that kind of stuff. The other day I go out there and there are kickers out there, and I'm going out to mow, and I'm like, so I start talking to them, and I kind of started feeling that itch again, you know, how we need to do this, but you know, it's interesting. You think I loved every minute of it, and I don't think I'll do it again. I'm going to be very selective if I do it again. But what I really started to look at was, you know, our kids are fixing to be out of the house. You know, now I have a chance to kind of really be back in a honeymoon stage with my wife. And so we really enjoyed that. But a couple times this last year where I've gone out and worked with the kicker a little bit, I'm like, oh my God.
Nice. I think, yeah, it's kind of hard to imagine when you've been doing it so long, not doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes it's like the right move for your family, but like, I don't know if you feel this way, but like if you're a coach, it's like that's who you are. Like a big part of it is trying to mentor someone, and you can't imagine a point in your life where that's not a big part of it. But you have a really exciting opportunity to be there for your family in like a more, I don't know, just a role where you're always present, I guess. And that's, I mean, more important than, I mean, like we give ourselves more to, as coaches, you know, to other people and what they need a lot of times in our own family. So now your stage is set for a really important, probably cool time, I think. So I'm happy for you. And I know like it probably will suck every time you like ever are around it, you know.
I tried to go to one of the games last year, and I pulled into the parking lot, and I saw the coaches and everybody, and I was just like, can't do it. And then I went to one of their basketball games last year, and just walking into the gym, and like most of the kids who played football for me were playing basketball, and watching them warm up, it's like I didn't realize how much I don't miss. I mean, you miss the game planning and you miss the exciting moments, but I miss the boys.
Yeah,
I miss the boys the most. And one of the problems that I had outside of financial stuff was like I couldn't separate that from my real life. Like I always had to have my phone on me, and anytime my phone rang or buzzed, it was almost like it was constant. It was almost like more bad news. But I couldn't separate it from myself.
Yeah.
And so now it's nice to have family dinner, and not be just not have to worry about being interrupted for whatever reason.
And that's coming from a head coach perspective, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like, because in that role, it seems like there's a lot of that, like never ending. Hey, this happened with one of your kids. How are you going to handle it? And it might not be a in-school thing. It's probably like an out-of-school, their family situation or whatever.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying.
And in that role, I was blessed because I didn't really coach anything. I put the quarterback through drills. Didn't run the offense, didn't run the defense. I did the special teams. I worked with the kicker a little bit, but it was still like, and we only had 50 kids in the program, but it was still a constant drumbeat of this parent saw this, or the guy at the gas station that, and oh your kicker did this. It's like constant. Oh, this guy's been out of school for 10 weeks or 10 days in a row. Is he sick?
Yeah, it's nonstop. Well, do you have anything else before we close? We appreciate you coming on. It was good to see you again.
Glad to do it.